Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and the subject of today's video newsletter, well, we're going to cover a query off from a viewer who's just literally sent me a message about using design of experiments in chemistry. So slightly different, you have to be a little bit more careful. I made a comment about statistical safety, I think, in a video, and he wanted to ask a question. Why would I not use fractional factorials in chemistry? So we're going to answer that question for him. Just before we get going, just a reminder, my books are published. Statistical process control is the latest text that I've published. Statistical process control for small batch production. You can get that from lulu.com. The link is underneath this video down there. If you're into design of experiments, all the things I talk about in my videos, they're all contained in this very simple, practical book, Design of Experiments for 21st Century Engineers, also available from lulu.com. And finally, if you're a green belt or a black belt and you want a good practical text, not a mathematical text, but a good practical text about how to make more money with your Six Sigma skills, Drink Tea and Read the Paper is the book to go and buy. You can get all three of these texts from lulu.com. The links are just below this video. Be great if you could support me. I've got another book coming soon all about failure mode and effects analysis, so some support there would be fantastic. Let's get on to this video though. So the video is about DOE, Design of Experiments in Chemistry. And more particularly, fractional factorials. Alright, now what I would say to you in chemistry, now most of my clients, I deal with physics, so lots of the processes that I'm dealing with are presses, molding machines, things like this, electronic board assembling machines, that type of thing. It's all physics, and in physics some fractional factorials are very, very useful, and I would definitely advise that you use a fractional factorial in certain experimental situations. But when we're dealing with chemistry, real chemistry, where you're mixing liquids and you're looking for some kind of chemical reaction, the sorts of things that you can literally sit down and you could write it in some kind of chemical formula as well, maybe, I would advise you to avoid fractional factorials. And I'm going to give you a little example. So what we're going to just look at, because I've been working with a client, it's a chemistry process. I actually don't know what the product is. They haven't actually told me the product. They've just sent me the DOE and they've asked for help on analysing the DOE and hitting certain targets with it, but that's by the by. So what we've got this chemical process, and what they've tested is five inputs. We've actually got 3 outputs, so it's nice opportunity for the DOE, because this is super complicated. Hitting 3 targets with these things over here, it's not something you're going to do off the top of your head. Now if you go and use a full factorial here, so if you test at 2 levels, so it's a 2-level design, let's do this in red. If you do a 2-level 5 factor DOE, you are going to have to do 32 setups, 32 different chemical recipes, okay? And this is the one where in physics I typically get this cut back, okay? So you're going to do 32 recipes. Now that is your full factorial. Now bear in mind what is available when you do a full factorial. The power of the full factorial is that all knowledge is available. What do I mean by that? Well, you've got 5 factors. So all knowledge is that you find out what the 5 individual variables do. We'll just call them A, B, C, D, and E in this case. So what you're going to find out with the full factorial, you're going to find out what that individual lever does, what that individual chemical does to the response that you're interested in. But, and here's what happens in chemistry. Chemistry is highly interactive. Often you have a chemical, it doesn't do anything on its own, but if you mix it with 2 or 3 other chemicals, you can make explosives. Bang! Well, what an explosive is a 3-way or a 4-way interaction. So the interactions are important. So not only do we get the main effects, we can see the 2-way interactions, we can see the 3 ways, you can see the 4 ways, and you can see the 5-way interaction, should one exist. Now, the example I'm going to show you, look at the screen here. This is the DOE that they sent me, as I mentioned to you earlier. I don't even know what this process does. I just know they wanted to hit some targets. So they did this very DOE. They did a 32 setup full factorial. Now in physics, I would have recommended the 2 to the 5 minus 1, which is only 16 setups. Of course, if you don't collect the data, you can't have the knowledge. So in 16 setups, what happens? I don't get the 3-way, the 4-way, the 5-way. I can only see 2 ways of main effects. Now in physics, that's okay, because in physics, you tend not to get 3-way interactions. They're very rare, very weak. In chemistry, 3 ways can blow your house down. So they did this DOE, the full factorial, not the physics recommendation. And look at the model. If you look down the models here, look what we've got. This is chemistry. This process is highly interactive. You've got some powerful 2 ways. There's a 3-way in there. One of the models, I think, somewhere down here, look, even contains a 5-way interaction with a low p-value. This is telling us that statistically, these 3 ways, these 4 ways, these 5 ways interactions are really important to being able to hit the target. Now this particular company, they're hitting those 3 targets like crazy. They're really happy with the experiment that they've done. But had they done the half fraction, most of that model that's important in that table wouldn't have actually existed, and probably they wouldn't be hitting the target as well. So Victor, you sent me that message a little bit earlier. It's great to be able to make a video for you. It's great to be able to put that knowledge on YouTube because, you know, the use of design of experiments, DOE, it is the fastest way to make more money. It is simply genius to use a design of experiments. But occasionally you'll make the wrong choice, the wrong tool at the wrong time, and it will make DOE look like it doesn't work. I want to make sure that that knowledge is out there. Make sure. Now this company, by the way, when I asked them about the 32 setups, it was actually very easy for them to get the data. So they were very relaxed about doing the extra data sets. Sometimes that isn't possible and you get driven to compromises that maybe you shouldn't be making. But if you're in chemistry, the danger is the 3 ways, the 4 ways and the 5 ways are going to be really important. You need to see them. Therefore, you need full factorials when you do design of experiments in chemistry.